I try to understand where people are coming from in terms of voting for Joey, but I don't think I ever will. In the same way that people are going to line up for Kamala Harris. So let's get into her town hall right now. And it was botched. It was pretty bad. And no matter what interview you really throw these people in or in front of the camera, they completely just run it right into the ground like this country. So, Comrade Kamala, it's time to turn the page. America's ready for a new way forward. Folks, it really is just a weird thing to say when you're the sitting vice president right now. It's odd. It's like, why would you need to turn the page if everything is going so great? Like, if your administration was so fine, why would you need to turn the page?
Well, folks, it's time to turn the page. It's time to turn the page. And America is ready for a new way forward.
And that new way forward for her is Marxism. That's the new way forward, to sit there and tax the crap out of you. Oh, well, you're going to get $25 for this or that. So that's what she threw down. And with all these promises that, well, she's not going to be able to keep, she's going to bring down housing costs, you guys. Yeah, she's going to do it. Remember, she's in office right now. Kamala, you still got like 2-3 months there, girl.
A future where we build, for example, what I call an opportunity economy, where everyone has the ability to compete and have a real chance to succeed. Under my economic plan, we will bring down the cost of housing. Arizona, you know that's an issue we need to deal with. A future.
Yeah, you're in there now. You can just solve it now. So she has this town hall, and she debuts this new accent. I mean, this is coming out more than ever. If you realize that she has like I don't know if you call it Ebonics or like an African American or black accent, right? You know, there's a certain type of way that some people talk in this country, and a little bit of dialect. And then she comes out the other day, I think it was yesterday, with like a Jamaican accent. And then she talked like a Valley girl at one point. And now this one's new. She's on Univision and starts getting a little Hispanic.
Well, first of all, thank you for the question, and I hope your family is okay and your home is okay. Well,
oh my God. It's worse than I thought. We're going to play it again. This was so good. This was good.
First of all, thank you for the question, and I hope your family is okay and your home is okay. It's okay and it's okay and it's okay and you're okay and your home is okay. It's okay and your home is okay.
I'll tell you what, fool. I hope your home is okay. I say, I'll tell you what. You know, orale in the home, chaporale. I say, you need to sit there and make sure everything is fine and dandy on me. Is your home okay over there on the Univision? So that was embarrassing. And then she goes on, and she's confronted with criticism of her hurricane response. This is not a time for people to play politics. Says the lady that finally calls Ron DeSantis up and cares about a hurricane or any sort of natural disaster.
The administration didn't do enough in terms of relief for families affected by Helene. What would your administration do differently in the case of Milton?
Well, first of all, thank you for the question, and I hope your family is okay and your home is okay.
Yes, they are, ma'am.
Okay. So there's been a lot of mis and disinformation about what we have been doing over the last 2 weeks and what we are going to do going forward. And
yes, some of you are catching this. That camera, you could see it right now. The camera in the middle of your screen. Do you see what's written on that? That is a teleprompter. Now, I don't know if she's reading from it, but it could have notes on it. Or it could be just the question, because all this is pre-scripted, right? They pretend like these people didn't already have the questions or questions given to them. They usually do. So it could just be the question on the teleprompter, because you know that she can't remember a few phrases. But it could also be her answers, and it's a way for her to sit there and kind of do a side eye and make sure she's following bullet points.
I have to stress that this is not a time for people to play politics.
Yeah. So what happens later, you guys, is the camera swings behind her and catches the teleprompter, and they end up turning it off. So we'll see if we can get to that. But it's wild. So Kamala, who was too busy fundraising for her rich San Francisco donors to respond to Hurricane Helene, says she's the best example of the importance of having leadership at a moment of crisis. I told you it's the most botched thing I've ever seen. This might go down as one of the worst town halls I've ever seen in politics. I really do mean that. The answers are just terrible, and it's completely gaslighting everybody.
Mentioned the hurricanes. I'll start by speaking to all of the people who are living in the Southeast corridor who have been so devastated by Hurricane Helene, Milton, and I cannot stress enough the work that we have been doing around the clock to make sure that the federal resources are on the ground in partnership with state and local leaders to do the work of giving people the relief they need so immediately, plus a commitment to helping people in the long term.
Is she diving back into that Spanish accent a little bit? Is anybody else picking up on that?
I do think that the crisis that we have just experienced and the ongoing effects of it because of these hurricanes are yet another example of the importance of having leadership at a moment of crisis who understands their role and responsibility. You mentioned the hurricanes. I'll start by speaking.
Moments of crisis, like the southern border, of which, again, they still have yet to call the border a crisis. Sometimes you get a little glimpse of it, like from John Kirby, we'll call it a crisis because he's somewhat half coherent. But then you get other times where they won't sit there and acknowledge it. It's still just a situation, you guys. The border is just a situation. They also called it a challenge. And speaking of the border, Kamala complains to Congress that they didn't pass her bill. The first she said and Biden proposed when they took office. She's going to complain about Congress. Lady, you're in the executive branch. You could sit there and solve this in an hour. In an hour.
The first bill we offered Congress, before we did the bipartisan infrastructure bill, before we did the work on gun safety, before we did the work on investing in chips and science, the first bill we offered within hours of taking the oath was a bill to fix the immigration system, including creating a comprehensive, earned pathway to citizenship for hardworking people.
Do you notice, and we talked about this yesterday, and well, we've talked about it at length. Why didn't you get it done? Kamala, you had all three branches of government when you entered office. Why could you guys not get it done for that first year or 2 years? Because it sucked. Because everybody realized it doesn't solve anything. And the Democrats realized, well, we can't put this through because we want to allow all these people to pour across the border. Because then we could talk amnesty. Then we got freaking these people voting Democrat for, next time in the foreseeable future. You won't see a Republican sitting candidate or president in American history for the rest of at least your lifetime. Or ever. Because they're just going to produce more people that vote Democrat. It's astonishing that, well, we got to fix the immigration issue. Why don't you stop the bleeding first? But don't worry, she's going to talk to us and lecture us about leadership. That this is the time of crisis, that we're going to sit there and solve all your problems. She couldn't even solve San Francisco's problems, you guys. And somehow Democrats will pretzel their way into this whole idea that they're going to sit there and fix it. She's going to talk to us again, lectures about leadership. You guys, there's a teleprompter giving her the answers. There's a teleprompter that either shows the question or it shows bullet points. It sure in hell ain't her doing an ad read like we do here on the show. That's for sure. So now we're going to show you the teleprompter and it's all its glory. And watch what the producers do. They're screaming in there, cut the feed, shit.
Victim of crime. Are you a Republican? Are you a Democrat? The only question I ever ask is, are you okay?
Watch, they're going to cut it.
And sadly, we have seen over the last 2 weeks since Hurricane Helene.
Y'all see that? Now I can't read because it only does, Elon Musk only allows 720 on the Twitter space. But watch this. Oh, all of a sudden, bye-bye. Bye-bye when they realize, and like at this point, right? They're sitting there like, oh, we're good. Oh, shit, cut it. The guy in the teleprompter, cut the feed, kick the cord. And then, boom, out. Now, again, I'm not willing to say if this had answers on it because I don't know. It could also be for the host to sit there and kind of use that as a guide as well. I don't know what it was for, but either way, it doesn't look good nonetheless. So a voter tells Kamala he has big concerns about her shoving Biden aside and taking his place as the nominee without earning a single vote. More passion, more effort, more passion.
I feel President Biden was pushed aside.
Oh.
A poco tiempo de las elecciones.
And so close to
Parece
the
que es una
elections,
circunstancia
I believe
extraordinaria.
these are extraordinary
Extraordinary
circumstances.
given how close we are to the election. So, la pregunta, Mario.
And Mario's question?
The question, Mario.
La pregunta es, ¿cómo
So the
nos
question
puede
is,
aclarar
how can
todo
you
esto,
clarify
todo este proceso,
this whole
y cómo
process
fue usted elegida?
and how you were
Process and
elected?
how you
Sure,
got the
and-
candidacy.
First of all, thank you for being so candid and allowing me to answer the question. Thank you. President Biden made a decision that I think history will show was probably one of the most courageous that a president could make, which is he decided to put country above his personal interest. And he made that decision. He within that same period of time, supported my candidacy and urged me to run. He and I have been partners for the last 4 years as his vice president, to him as the president. And I am honored to have earned the Democratic nomination. I am honored to have the endorsement of people from every walk of life. You will probably find that I probably have a bigger coalition of people who couldn't seem to be more different than each other, who have come together around my candidacy. From 200 Republicans who worked with and...
Okay, it's just going to turn... By the way, this clip is 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Talk about a word salad. It doesn't answer anything. Hey, why did you sit there and kick out Joe? Joe was doing just fine on his own. Give me a break. Remember, this is the lady that thinks she won the Democrat nominee legitimately. She didn't get a single vote. That's not even democracy. You're not allowing people to select you to be their representative. They couldn't do it because they have nobody. They have no bench. It's not like the Republican Party, right? Where we got, I don't know, Ted Cruz, Vivek Ramaswamy, Nikki Haley, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance. I mean, you could have freaking Jason Chaffetz come out of the retirement. You could have all sorts of people coming out. Tom Cotton, Tim Scott, or Tom Scott. I always get those two confused. But, I mean, our bench is deep. The point I'm trying to make is Democrats just got Kamala. Were they going to chauffeur out somebody else? It gets worse. It gets worse. Kamala calls for putting resources in the fentanyl. I told you it was botched, man. This is worse than one of the worst plastic surgeries ever, except it's a town hall. Look at this.
many months of what could have been happening right now in terms of putting resources into fentanyl. Many months.
Many years, you dum-dum. You're killing hundreds of thousands of Americans. She even, like, again, vows to grant mass amnesty to over 20 million illegal immigrants. It's like 25 to 30 million people she wants to give amnesty to. Do you think that's going to sit there and help your grocery prices and your bills? You think that's going to sit there and favor your voting, by the way? It's unbelievable. It basically cancels out your vote.
And do the work of focusing on what we must do to have an orderly and humane pathway to earn citizenship for hardworking people. And
We already have that. Just to let you know. We already have that. It's so funny how all of a sudden that things are already created and we're the ones that don't deal with reality. But when Democrats go, well, we need to create a pathway for citizenship. Yes, it already is there. You just have 20 plus million people that decided to disregard that whole pathway and come here illegally and just cut the line. And then we're supposed to sit there and not get upset the fact that they're getting our services, education, lawyer fees, food, housing, hotels, kicking out our veterans from places, that they're sitting there getting better aid and better humanitarian assistance than actual Americans that are on the streets. But don't worry, Kamala Harris gave all those victims of the hurricane $750, woo, while Chicago's giving illegal immigrants $84,000 in cash and services. Oh, that's lovely. Oh, yeah, you're taking real good care of them. Yep. But don't worry, the Ukrainians get $60 billion. The Israelis get $10, $15 billion. The Taliban's getting $87 million every 2 weeks. You got the Iranians who hate us getting $10 billion. But don't worry, you guys get $750, and you're supposed to be excited about it. So excited that you're supposed to show up in the polls and sit there and be voting Kamala Harris. And she put on record, by the way, she says, I will put my record up against anyone in terms of work I have always done and will have always have done to secure the border. It's so outrageous that I can't even say it coherently. Folks, when somebody's just so willing to just lie versus somebody that's just usually says the truth, it's hard for the truth teller to sit there and say the lie itself. Sometimes you will see me fumble because it's tough to sit there and say something that's so outlandishly false, it goes against my very nature.
South as well as what was coming north. So I will put my record up against anyone in terms of the work I have always done and will always do to ensure we have a secure border.
No commentary needs to be added to that one. None. Absolutely none. Here she is saying, I used to spend $250 a week, this individual. Here's what Kamala had to say.
I used to spend $250 a week in food, and now it goes up to $350.
$200 to over $350 in groceries.
Not only do I talk about food, but utilities, clothes, everything is
like
much more
water
expensive.
And energy, and clothes.
Sí, y bueno, pues yo soy de la clase media.
I am middle class, and I work a lot, and just like everybody else in the middle class, we work very hard. You said we're ambitious, but that ambition, sometimes it's really difficult to keep up with because we see life is going up, and we just simply cannot go ahead. We can't move ahead.
Women, and you said we're ambitious, but it's hard to maintain that ambition when conditions are so hard, so challenging.
Yes. Mi pregunta es entonces,
so my question is as follows. What are you going to do to help the middle class so that the cost of living does not destroy us?
Thank you for the question and your point. Listen, I know prices are too high still. You know prices are too high still. And we have to deal with it. Here's how I feel about it. Again, you've heard my story. I come from the working class. I'm never going to forget where I come from. And part of what we have to do is build what I call an opportunity economy, where people have the opportunity, like you have described, for you to be able to work hard and your 5 daughters have an opportunity to then do what they and what you aspire for them to be able to do without having to worry about just getting by. I want you to be able to get ahead. So here's my plan. It includes what we need to do to bring down the cost of, for example, groceries. One of the issues I'm going to be taking on is price gouging.
Could somebody ask her, please, who's the companies that's doing the price gouging? Could somebody ask her, please, how she actually intends to take care of this? Because all she's doing is going, well, I'm going to sit there and build an opportunity economy. We already have that. It's called capitalism. It's called the free market. People could sit there and do certain things, but your party creates red tape. Your party actually hinders that free market from really thriving. Case in point, look at the way they handle energy. You got the EPA coming out. You can't fish in streams anymore. You can't dig a fucking hole. You can't sit there and do anything in the middle of the desert. You can't drill. You want to freaking put some drywall up in your house, you got to get an inspector, a permit, you know. You got to make sure, well, part of your mixture has to be 50% recycled.